What is up, guys? It's Verns, back here again with another Supercoach video. This time it is the round 8 review. And look, first green arrow we've seen in 3 weeks. Like, wow, great to see. Am I happy? Not at all. We put out a 2164. Season rank of 52k now, going up 7k. Now, the reason I'm not happy is honestly purely off the captain here and even the trade-in. I'm sure that you all know I was tossing up Tom Green, Caleb Sarong. Decided I would go Tom Green. That's fair enough. And then the captaincy was, do I go English? Do I go Green? Let's risk it all on Green. And for those that for some reason don't know, Tom Green got injured on A5. So that decision to bring Tom Green over Sarong, obviously I can't captain Green if he's not in my team. That's 260 points down the drain. Which is really frustrating because obviously a few weeks back I mentioned like, hey, we can still do this. There's a lot of highly owned players and we just need them to have a bad week. Gorn, honestly not a bad week, but bad week for his standards. Rao was down. Who's the guy in the back line? Sheasel was down. Yeah, you had a lot of, I guess, these commonly owned players that actually underperformed. And I had a few pods that did pretty decent, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be actually a pretty good week for me. Obviously, there's a lot of mammoth scores, though, so I wasn't really expecting to, like, win a weekly or anything like that, but, I mean, the Tom Green 260 points down the drain just really hurts. Even if, I still think it was the correct trade-in. Unlucky enough to put the captaincy on him, so even if it was 130 points, that still would have been nice. I mean, you can see 5 league wins there, 130 points onto that, and I win all 12, so bit unfortunate. Leagues aren't really super important, but it's just unfortunate, really. That decision just hurt me so much. And even with the 260 points, you add that onto my total score, and that's the difference between being ranked around 33, 34k. Could have put a massive jump back in the right direction and really started heading for the top, but just got absolutely stunted by the wrong captain choice. And it's just very, very frustrating. I guess a few other things to highlight there is obviously McCrae goes bang. I think if you had the hindsight to be like, he's playing St Kilda, I think he'll go over 100. He's good enough to bring in for 250k. Makes sense. But I did hear a lot of people talking about it in the week, and I think a few things to consider is a point was brought up that it's like, hey, we brought Combat in for 220k. McCrae is 250 with a better role. Like, what's the difference? I think the big difference was that we didn't have good forward rookies. And with Combin, we thought he still had a good role. We thought he could be an on-field forward scorer for us, where McCrae is going to have to be your defensive midfield. McCrae would have to come in for a Graham, a Williams, a Roberts. These rookies that actually have been scoring pretty well. These guys that can score 80. And somebody asked me, is it worth getting McCrae now? I'm just going to straight up state, no, it's not. Not in my opinion. I think you had to go last week. He's now over 300k. So there's like 3 big factors to this. The first factor, I guess, is now that he's 300k, if you're bringing him in, then who are you downgrading to him? And if it's someone like a Williams, if it's someone like a Roberts, if you're downgrading to him at 300k instead of, let's just say, a Jones at 123k, does that mean that you can not upgrade? Because obviously you have to spend 170 extra k on getting McCrae, meaning 170k less on a premium, meaning you may not be able to upgrade this week. So if getting McCrae means that you get 1 less premium, it's probably not worth it. The other factor here is, as I mentioned, how much more is he really going to score than these Roberts types, Closely, Graham? I said this before any of those guys had really played. I guess Roberts had played at that stage, but look, it was a really wet weather game. I still think Roberts is probably close to a 75-80 guy. So how much do you really think he's going to score? Do you think he's going to score more than these guys? And if he is he only scoring 5 to 10 points more? Is it worth bringing in a rookie that's going to outscore another rookie by 5 to 10 points more? Or bring in a premium that's going to outscore your rookies by 60, 40, much more points? And I guess 2 more factors. One of them being McCrae at the end of the day. Is he going to make 100k from here? I definitely think that's possible. He does have to get to 400k to do that, though. So I feel like the reward for the investment isn't enough to justify it. Like, if you were getting him, if he was going all the way up to 500k at this current price, 100% lock him in, no problem. But he's going to go to 400k, maybe a little bit more than that. I don't see him going to this 500k mark. I mean, you get 100k off him, you could get 100k off a rookie, and at the end of the day, if he's only outscoring the guys currently on field by 5 to 10 points, is it really worth, as I said, stunting that premium growth? And then the final point that he played St Kilda. St Kilda being the team that obviously gives it the most points to defenders, so this is probably his ceiling game. Absolute ceiling, best case scenario game. I think we're more realistic to see maybe 80 to 90. I think that's still pretty optimistic from him. But as I said, Roberts is probably good enough to be scoring that as well. So what really are we gaining from going down? You know, you'd get a lot more going to another rookie. You know, going down from like a Darcy to a Jones rather than a Roberts to a McCrae. I think it's gonna be a bit better, gives you a bit of extra money, gets you a bit of a better rookie. If at the end of the day the money's not going to do you anything, I guess you can maybe try and justify it, but yeah, it's just not my flavor of the week. I do see now that my projected is showing that I have not reversed my trades, so as usual I'll have to go do that. But yeah, I'm just going to say no to McCrae. Now, before I do carry on any more about other discussion points and jump into the team, I do just want to appreciate all those that have tuned into the video, even if you haven't liked or subscribed, for your consistent injections of Supercoach content directly into your YouTube feed. But if you have, definitely appreciate you that little bit more. But yeah, let's before I jump into it as well, another discussion point I wanted to mention is obviously Bailey Dale went boom, and I mean, it's not too surprising. He still has a good role. He is still a good premium, but we did think Ed Richards would hinder him a bit more, and it felt like sort of Johannesson just got wrecked instead. Like, all of these points, because Johannesson been scoring really well, especially if like you're someone that you started with. But last 2 games he's gone like 50 points with Dale on the team. So I think Johannesson's getting less of the ball, Richard's getting less of the ball, kind of pushing up a bit more, and Dale is the main distributor. So might end up as maybe a keeper option for those. So you know, congrats I guess if you got on it. Personally, I wouldn't be jumping on at 520k, like no way in hell. At that point you get on a Stewart, like you're paying 50k more for like a top echelon premium, rather than a guy that might be 6 to 8. Best case scenario, in my opinion. So I'd prefer to do that. And then another one that we called out a few weeks ago, so I think it was the round 5 review, and I actually called this guy a must-have in that video. I didn't end up bringing him in, and for anyone that's been following along, you know who I'm talking about. Round 5, I actually called out Stephen May to be a must-have. Because he'd gone, 115, like 105, like a 95, and then he got injured on a 12. So because of that, his price ended up plummeting to almost 400k-ish, and I knew it would plummet. He was playing at a level where it's like, hey, this guy's 100 to 105, he's 100k under price, he'll be 100k under price, he's going to be a good get, so I called him a must-have at that time. Obviously, the following week he got a 67, so he kind of fell a little bit off the radar. But then there was that bye week that he had, and in that bye week is when Dale drops that 178. And I sort of, you sort of forget that May was even a discussion point for me. And I think I was the only person that really discussed him at that time. But, I mean, obviously, if you did bring him in after his bye, yeah, Dale did go 130, 115, so probably he would be, I still think, technically the better option. I know it's a lot more money, a lot quicker, but May did go, I think, a 115 himself, and then a 130 again this week, so he matched Dale's scoring, and actually would have been someone that if you did bring in after your bye, you just would have got elite points for it, so I called him a must-have, and then I kind of ignored him, and then he ended up being what looks like could have been a really good pick for us. So, a bit unfortunate. Dawson was also on the bubble that week, so I guess that the priorities sort of jumped up. And as much as you can plan for these guys when they fall cheap, I mean, you kind of just have to take into account that you're gonna get a premium for someone like Dawson. I'm gonna get Dawson over him, but yeah, we'll jump into the team in a second. Just gonna quickly stop, reverse those trades, and then jump into it. So bear with me. We're back, guys. So this is how the team looked going into the week. Really upsetting. Maybe I was a little too hype on trying to get the Dawson VC here into the showdown game. I'm going to quickly just do a double zoom in here, get a bit more of a team look, make it a bit easier for people. But yeah, I maybe a bit too hype on Dawson. I always thought Green would be going big, so maybe I should have gone a VC with Green. But yeah, very punishing getting that 5. It's obviously hindsight. I really thought Green was going to go big. And as I said, I think this was the correct call. And look, I was pretty tilted when it happened. I even messaged in one of our, I guess, chat with plenty of other podcasters. And I was just like, yeah, I'm done with footy for the week. Wasn't the case. I still watched it all. But, I was pretty pissed off. And, yeah, it was even more annoying because like quarter time hits, and then the commentators it starts pissing down. And even the commentators made the comment like, "Oh man, this weather would have been perfect for Green." It's like, bros, I know. Stop rubbing it in. Like, come on, please. Obviously, another big burn for us. Obviously, Grundy going big again. It was one of those things I didn't mention him in my captaincy options, but as the week sort of went on and I realized he's going to be pissing down, it's like, okay, well, Grundy does have great statistics at the SCG. Briggs is a ruckman that gives up a lot of hit outs, and it is meant to be raining, so that kind of favours Grundy massively. But yeah, I mean, it just shows how much damage this Marshall trade did. Brought him in, got a 60 and a 50 from him. Grundy obviously scored 160 and an 80. I mean, the 160 is enough to cover those two scores. And then a 140 this week. I mean, if I was a Grundy owner this week, I wouldn't have traded for the sweet 74 going into Briggs. But being a Marshall owner, Hayes coming in, there was no way I was holding him with Hayes in because it just tanks that ceiling. So all of a sudden his ceiling's lower and his floor feels like it drops a little bit lower too. I mean, saying that his floor was already 50. So once you take out that ceiling, it's like, yeah, this ain't it. So got rid of Marshall, nothing wrong with that. Trades with Marshall out at the end of the day. We brought McCrae in, which I'm a little bit upset about. If you did watch my trades video, the idea was Green was coming in, Sweet was coming in, and then if Sweet got a good enough score or I decided to get rid of Marshall, I would actually trade Roberts instead of Williams, and then when I trade Roberts, I'd be able to get a Flanders. And that would have netted us a lot more points and would have been a much better play. But what I did realize is, hey, if I actually get rid of Cadman, I can afford McCrae. McCrae going into Hawthorn, I think Dogs should run over them. There's a good chance this could be like the Dogs of old, where it's like you see English with like a 160, Bont with a 140, Libba with a 140, McCrae with a 120. Like the old school, what we see from Gold Coast now, where you see just like their top 4, their big 4 just absolutely tunning up with like all 140s when they run over teams. And I thought, hey, this could be the Dogs of old coming back into a Hawthorn game. I believe in this. It was not the case. It was the wrong play, and it sucked. There was also rumors around McCrae being a sub, and I thought if he gets named sub, I'm going to go to Dylan Moore. Just because at that stage, the only 2 games left were Brisbane, Brisbane, Gold Coast, and Dogs, Hawthorn, and the only viable forward there. I'm not personally going to Zorko, but I mean, he would have been a good shout apparently. Still wouldn't have done it, but I would have gone the Moore. It's the only option. So I'm almost upset that McCrae wasn't named as a sub, because if he was named as a sub, a lot of people who went on him last week would have just been stuck in the absolute rough and absolutely wrecked by that. And unfortunately, I mean, I say unfortunately, but he wasn't, so I brought him in, kept him. It meant that I could move on Cadman instead of Williams as well, or Cadman instead of Roberts, which I thought was a lot better. Roberts played in the wet though, so I don't really blame him for this 50. Williams, super frustrating, on track for the ton, and I thought I was a genius. And then, gets subbed off and ends up finishing on 60, and very frustrating in that case. Saying that, though, Pies get the big win, and we feel pretty good about that. So, I mean, I don't mind that. I guess another one to call out in the forward line as a sub was also Fife. He ended up getting named as a sub, and all these people that are holding him got absolutely wrecked, and it was so good for us finally. Yo was another one who underperformed. Sorry, just pointing on these guys have been killing us all season. Finally, they took a step back, and I mentioned it last week. We just need them to take a step back. A few of our pods go off, and that's what was happening this week. But I, of course, went ahead and captained Green and also traded them in. I mean, as I said, the Sarong pick, it's 130 for the Sarong. It's 130 for the captaincy, which I would have put on English. It's 260 points down the drain. It just hurts. Gonna stop ragging on about that. So we'll go over some of the key points. Luke Ryan, 197. Oh my God, this man is broken. The other thing, though, is this does justify one of the things I did a while back, which I captained McGovern into Richmond. And I was like, Richmond give up massive points to the defenders. Unfortunately, McGovern scored 72 in that game, and it wasn't his fault. I mean, Duggan ate up a few of the kick-ins. There was only like 5 kick-ins in the game because Richmond actually kicked straight when they kicked, which they did not in this game. And Duggan ended up eating up like 3 of them, and McGovern got like 2, and it just didn't really work. The ball also didn't go down there much. Like, Richmond got absolutely pumped to the point that the ball never went into the defense, and McGovern just couldn't get involved. Where this game, Freo actually let them get involved, like let them win the clearances, but then it was a chaotic ball inside that Luke Ryan ate up, and that's what I thought would be happening with McGovern. So I think it justified why I captained McGovern a few weeks back into Richmond, but unfortunately it was just the wrong defender on the wrong week. So, it just is what it is. And the Luke Ryan thing that's actually very frustrating here, not frustrating, but it's a bit upsetty. Obviously, the Podmasters draft I'm in, and we were undefeated until this week where we dropped it to Az. Congrats to him. I think we lost about like 30 points, and that big man captains Luke Ryan. Nothing I can do there. That's just well played, sir. Well played. So we're still top because we had a 2-game buffer on second, but yeah, got beaten by a Luke Ryan captain. Just rough. Dacos, oh my god, what a boy. What a goal at the end. Let's go! Gets the Pies the big win, gets massive Supercoach points, and so good. So good I brought him in 2 weeks ago. I mean, his average for me is much higher than the average for people that started them. Obviously, people that started them, you've got that 118 average, but then you got to count in the fact they didn't play one of those games, and it's like actually that 118 average drops a bit. Where I've brought him in, I've got a 130 out of him, I've got a 150 out of him. He's looking at like that 140 average in my team. Beautiful. So, that was a good call from me. And, I did make good calls as much as some of them were clearly wrong and we just got absolutely wrecked by them. That was a good one. Nick Martin did his thing. Very happy with the 122. He was actually one of the people I did also consider for a VC going into West Coast, knowing they give up a lot of points to the offensive defenders. So yeah, really good from him. McGovern 101. We take that. McGovern's actually super frustrating though, in the sense that we brought him in after the 144, the 120, and I went, ooh, McGovern could be the boy. He's been in that team for 5 weeks. He's averaged 95. It's just not good enough. It's actually one of our worst premium scoring, and it's really hurt us. Bringing him in, it didn't work out right now. I really need him as a pod to have a few big games. He's coming to Pies this week, and I feel like we give up points to intercepting defenders. Sometimes we play really well and we lower our eyes and we hit those small forwards, and other times we send chaos balls into these big defensive lines when we don't have really any big key forwards and we just let them gobble up marks. So, I mean, as long as we win, I wouldn't mind McGovern gobbling up a few and getting a 140. That would be very, very helpful. Thank you. And next, Max Holmes. Oh my god. Max Holmes actually frustrates me every week. Last week, I told you he should have been a 130. This week, he should have been a 130. And even the week before that, he always just finds a way to lose points at crucial moments. And he got 5 clangers in this game, like 61% disposal efficiency, still got a 113. Like, this guy actually had like a 150 knocking on the door. But the reason it was a 130 game is at the end of this game, for anyone that was watching it, obviously Melbourne are trying to get the ball down. The ball's in Geelong's defensive half and they're under pressure and they do a few quick hand passes. Holmes gets it with that second of space where he can just put it on his boot and bomb it long. Bombs it long down the line, and it's like a 2-on-1, but they can't really, like the one can't really affect it, and Melbourne get the intercept mark. It's like, okay, that's a clanger, unfortunate. Ball comes straight back in, and the exact same thing happens. They get it around, they get it to Holmes. There's no time that put your eyes up. He just has to go long and hope for territory with the minute left on the clock. Another intercept mark. This man was on a 121 and dropped to a 109. He lost 12 points. That's 6 points per clanger because of the scaling of that like 1 minute left on the clock and how important it was. He minus 12. I mean, obviously, if they're effective kicks, if someone can get a fist to it and he gets the territory effective, boom, +4. So that's minus 20 because he could have got +8, but he got minus 12. That's plus 20 points right there in the last minute of the game. And instead of getting that 130, he ends up with a 113 because he manages to get like 2 more handballs before the game ends when they get the ball back in. And it's just very frustrating that happens so often to him where he kicks the ball, it feels to contest, and Geelong's tools just seem to suck or get bodied out and they just let a contested mark happen. As I said, in this case they weren't really contested. It was a long ball for territory with 1 minute left, and unfortunately Melbourne had set up behind the ball, so any kick like that was basically a guaranteed clanger. but you just want someone to get a fist to it. They gain the 40 meters, they get the ball out of bounds or something, and they get the inbound, and that's good. That's correct. Even his long bomb with 1 minute left, it's still correct in their situation. It's either get tackled at the 50 and have a contest up there, or bomb long, try and get 50 meters of territory towards the boundary, and hopefully someone can get it out of bounds. But no, they end up getting marked, and it's the correct footy play in that situation, but it was minus basically 20 of Supercoach, and it just very painful that Max Holmes has been so close, so many times to hitting that 130, but hasn't quite done it, and he has a huge pod for us. It would be very important for him to sort of get there. But yeah, I guess it is what it is there. I mean, once again, Max Holmes, a great starting pick. 82, we picked him up for like 420k or whatever he was at the start of the season. He's 550 now, 99 average, playing 17 points above what we paid for. But yeah, he honestly could have been even more than that. And yeah, look, I'm still very happy with him, and he's going to be one of those pods I'm very happy with all season long. Or he talked about Williams. Bont tore it up, and then they lost. I mean, what the hell happened there? Butters did what he could. Rosie went down, though, so Butters, a big shout this week. Obviously, Geelong just gave up a 140 to Clayton Oliver, so Butters, VC, lock him in, boom. I mean, saying that I'm not a Gorn owner, so, you know, don't VC Gorn. And then Libba, very frustrating with Libba here. Once again, a huge pod for us, like a huge pod. I'm not even sure the numbers. Let's take a click and have a look at it. What is his ownership percentage at? I don't know how to check it anymore. That's the round 9 trade. How do I check his ownership percentage? Yeah, I have no idea how to check that anymore. That's a bit unfortunate. Oh, wait, it's going to be down here. 5% of teams, so a huge pod for us. And a bit frustrating here that like he had a 40-point first quarter, and then he finished on 80, so he got 40 points for the next 3. He obviously took a bit of a head knock, and he's already missed 2 weeks because he took that head hit a while back in the Essendon game, so you're like, God damn, that's unfortunate. And then at the end of the game, he gets elbowed in the goddamn nose. I don't know what the umpire saw here. Like, I felt like this was so obvious from a broadcast point of view. Like, obviously from a broadcast, like, I don't know where the umpire is if he has the same vision of us. He clearly doesn't, but, you know, he would have called it. But Libba tackles Nash, and Nash just, like, throws his arm back and just elbows him dead in the fucking face. Like, the guy's got blood gushing from his face. He's hit the ground. Like, he might have been knocked out again. God damn it. Like, he may miss this week. It's so unfortunate. I haven't really looked at the vision properly, but he got elbowed in the goddamn face. And as he's tackling him, he just, like, drops. And because he drops, because he's been, like, knocked out or hit in the nose, he's, like, caught Nash's legs. And the umpire's blowing the whistle and being, like, legging. And it's like, what, bro? Our boy just got elbowed in the face. Like, that's very frustrating in this sense too, just because once again, he was, I think, 87 and he went down to 80. Like, this was like with the last minute. Obviously, it's a 1-goal game towards Hawthorn, and he loses 7 points off that free against. Like, what? Bro, come on. Like, especially in a situation where it was like, I guess, as I said, from a broadcast point of view, it was a very obvious free 4. So it's just like, he should have got the free 4. Instead of the -7, should have probably ended up with the +4. I don't know how much a free 4 is. I think it's a +4-ish. So it should have ended up on like a 91. I don't think he could have taken the kick, unfortunately, because the man was dying. He was pissing blood. So that's just very frustrating that, yeah, once again, 10 points down the drain from there. And it's just what can you do there? That's just so unfortunate. Very frustrating for us as owners, and there's a good chance that he's going to miss this week again. I feel like he's going to miss it. I feel like he was knocked out there. If he wasn't knocked out, like, there's got to be concerns around it. Like, he just missed 2 weeks off it and then took 2 big head hits in this game. So, as much as I'd love to see the man play against Richmond and absolutely torture 150 and really reward us holders, but I think there's a chance he just doesn't, and that's so frustrating. Dawson, 94, that's fine. We're happy with it. He got the 127 for us this week. Obviously, if you brought him in this week and got the 94, you would have probably been a bit upset. But as someone that got the 127 last week, I'm fine with this. It's fine by me. Steele bounces back, 112. Boom! We're happy with that. Going in the Hawthorn this week. This is why I held. They had North and Hawthorn. You couldn't trade him going into those two teams. There's a good chance that even if he is underdone at the moment, feeling a bit cooked, that he could just put out good scores because they're shit teams. No offense, but I mean, Hawks did just beat doggies, but yeah, just honestly, really hoping for another decent one here. Hopefully another 110 plus from Steele. Green we've already talked about. Crouch 124. Boom! Let's go, Crouch. That's what we're talking about. For a moment I thought you were going to have to be traded, and then you finally bring it back. Once again, he was an 87. He was priced at 87 when we got him in, so he's averaged 20 points over. Obviously, he didn't miss one week, unfortunately, but still very good. We've already talked a bit about Roberts, closely Graham, bit unders from them. Jai Clark, yes, let's go. Holding the boy rewards us. Obviously, trading him didn't really net us any cash, so there's no point in trading him. But the 78's very nice because if he can keep getting games and maybe just get a few 50s, even 40s, he can maybe get to that 220 mark. Maybe the 230 mark, and then if he ends up being a trade down, at least he netted us like 100k. Like, hopefully we can get that out of him. English, very nice, very good, 135, very happy with that. Was actually much higher when he kicked that goal, but then because they ended up losing and Hawthorn got a goal at the end, scaling went against him, and he ended up dropping down, is what it is. Sweets, 74, I thought it was good enough, especially knowing Marshall had Hayes coming in. I was like, man, there's a good chance that with Hayes coming in, it already destroys Marshall, I think, as a pick, but then Sweet as a 74 is going to be better than a forward rookie, and it was 18 points better than Garcia, so this way, playing Sweet, I mean, technically Marshall outscored him by 33, so technically it's a net loss, but I still think it was the correct trade because Marshall would have lost so much money, and I just don't want to hold him with Hayes because Hayes played really well and he's going to hold that position in the team, so that's going to definitely affect Marshall, I would think. Heaney, good enough. Already talked about McCrae. Reed had a bit of a down game. It is what it is. Wilson, 126. What a gun. So good for us on field. Darcy, yeah, we thought we'd have a big game against Hawthorn, but it wasn't the case. He's got Richmond this week, so hopefully he has a big game against Richmond. And Coleman, 52, going to Saints. I mean, look, he's got to go. This just didn't end up being a good trade, and he made us like 75k, and he's kind of just got to go. So, looking at trades for the week. Now, I've sort of changed my philosophy. I changed it a little while back, being like, man, I need to stop picking up these speculative picks because, like, it's just not working, and I just need to get the best of the best. But another thing I need to take into account is I am 52k, round 8 just passed. We are a third of the way through the season. If I just do what everyone else does, bring in Sarong, bring in Merritt, just do what they do, I'm not going to win. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to win anyway. Like, I'm 52k, it's just not going to happen. But there's no way I make a comeback if I just do what everyone ahead of me is doing. I've got to find some sort of different angle to find points, and so I kind of want to get a little bit spicy moving forward. Don't get me wrong, I plan on still picking premiums, but I plan on looking a little bit more potish on these premiums. Now, before Dunkley dropped his 160 this week, I was actually thinking, well, not many people are hot on these Lions premiums. I might grab Dunkley after their bye. Saying that, I do realize Dunkley is into Adelaide, who's pretty restrictive, but then he does have, I think, Richmond and Hawthorn before he's buying. I'm sort of there like, oh god, like, kind of need that guy before he's buying, like. Especially with his low break even right now, he's going to be very expensive, which is a bit unfortunate. But then he went and got 160, and I think he's now on everyone's radar. And it's like, oh, okay. But I guess Neil is too, so it's really whoever you're hot on there. Now, Parrish is definitely a pod. Something that I was considering in the week before Parrish even went ahead and got the big score, because I did think give him one more week because West Coast have been a bit defensive, but everyone was like, Merritt's got this godlike run. You got to get on Merritt now. And I did keep thinking, Parrish also has that godlike run. He could do it. And I did mention him on the Supercoach Hub podcast as, hey, he's someone that you could go for as a cheapie. I know when Corey, the ladies' man Blackledge, was asking. But he only really had the one game against Collingwood, and it's like, it's a bit hard to bring someone in off one game. Saying that, I did that with Dawson, so he was actually a good buy because then he ended up tallying up West Coast, so congrats there if anyone that got on that. He could be someone that you get on right now because Essendon still have a good run. They still play West Coast again, they still play Pies again. Honestly, Parrish is, I think, next like 7 games, he has like 4 really good matchups, like 4 matchups that you think 130 plus, no problem. Like 3 that are a bit iffy. I think GWS a bit iffy. I think he has Carlton. I think one other team that's once again a bit iffy, but like really good matchups outside of that. So Parrish can definitely be a play here. The other one is Clayton Oliver. Obviously dropped a 140, finally brought it back. Obviously against Geelong though, like literally the worst midfield crew in all of Supercoach. Sorry, I say in Supercoach. Yeah, no, I think Supercoach is appropriate. I don't think you'd need to say in the AFL. I mean, in the scheme of the AFL, maybe I don't know those stats, but I do know they give up a ton of Supercoach points. So yeah, Oliver came back, but now he's getting into Carlton, who's quite restrictive. So could be a bit of a hard one. And then the other one I really need to look at, and this is kind of my bad, I guess kind of my bad, but McCrae does technically have Richmond this week, but it is Flanders. Flanders obviously is going to be great forward cover. It means that I can go up from a combat, and that's going to look really good in my forward line. But the annoying thing there is obviously Flanders has North. Flanders has North. Like, I wanted to bring in like a low break even Parish or a low break even Oliver, like one of these hyper pods that I can try and get some ground on the rest of the competition. But then I look at Flanders in the North and I think, man, Flanders is kind of like 130 guaranteed here. Like, I think he's 130 guaranteed, where the other two definitely aren't. The other two are definitely going to make money because they got the low break even, but he's going to definitely put up a massive score. The only way he doesn't get a massive score is that Gold Coast run over them so hard that he can't touch the ball because he obviously plays off the half back. But he did also get moved to the midfield this game. I don't think that'll be the same for North, but yeah, I think there is a chance that it could end up like that McGovern situation where they just pump them so hard that the ball doesn't come down back, so the defender can't score. How can the defender score if it doesn't come down back? So I think that's a little bit of a scary thing from Flanders, but you almost think that he's guaranteed a massive score. As I said, Parish and Oliver are a bit iffy. I don't know which one's which. I think the very obvious trade-in target is going to be Darcy Jones. I think that's his name. So we can easily go Combin out at this point, because he's on my chopping block. I will just quickly show you my Supercoach Plus, so it shows you these break evens. Obviously, Pink came in. I was really happy from the be back. Got named sub, got a 9, and now he's destroyed his break even. He's probably going to lose money. Once again, it's just not worth trading him, so I'm just going to hold him there and hope he can get back in the team, and maybe he can get a few decent games together. Maybe. But if I look at break-evens, Williams has definitely come back down, and that was expected. That's why we held on to him, because we knew as long as he had a decent game, he'd come back down. So I'm hoping Williams plays. There was talk about an injury. I don't know if there was, but talk about it. Roberts has a massive break-even, and you could get rid of him. Me, personally, I think I'm going to hold Roberts. Who did they have again this week? I can't click on them. Can I click on Heaney? Yeah, Heaney will tell us who they have. They have Freo, who has actually given up some good points to the distributors from half back. So Freo, Carlton, Dogs. I feel like Dogs give up decent points too. Yeah, what's Freo's actual power ranking when I look at the summary against defenders? Is that like most restrictive? Oh, I'm looking at the mid forward. Doesn't even matter. It's not even defenders. Love. But I kind of want to hold Roberts because of that, because I do think he's much better than what we saw there. They're also playing at Optus, which is a very wide stadium, so it's a lot more available for chips, meaning that Seagulls will thrive. So I kind of want to keep Roberts, but I kind of need to move on someone, and Roberts has the high break even. He's sort of the best trade out target, so I kind of need to go on him, unfortunately. The other one I guess I could go is Closey, but there's a lot more money on Roberts' head, so I might as well just go on him this week, honestly. Sorry, Roberts. Unfortunately, we've also wasted our boost. As I mentioned, we sort of wasted 2 earlier in the season, and having boosts right now would have been insane. The other thing here is I can actually technically bring in like a Caleb Sarong or a Zachy Merritt. I can bring these players in and still get Darcy Jones, which would be pretty nuts in reality. I guess Merritt's only 14% owned. He could be a decent bring-in. But as I said, I think Flanders, it feels very bad to antipod Flanders. Dunkley's a huge pod, but what's that break even? 69. Yeah, unfortunately, he has 2 good matchups after this, though, so I could maybe go Dunks right now. I do love Dunkley. We all know I love Dunkley. Yeah, and then I think the easiest way to look up these guys is just look at the round 8 points, because we have Parish there, 528. If I bring in Parish, it puts 100k in the kitty for next week. That's the only problem if I do move on someone like Dunks. It means that I don't have any money to help make an upgrade next week. Now, I think there's a good chance Williams goes, and then Graham or Closely ends up in the back line. Maybe we can find a midfield rookie to bring in, and then maybe we can upgrade like a Sam Darcy at that stage. But Sam Darcy, I don't know if he has enough money on his head to go straight to Flanders if I went down from William. Oh, maybe. So Williams down, I think net's 200k. Maybe we can go up to Flanders. Yeah, I guess I can maybe get him the week after. It just kind of sucks because we're expecting a big score from him this week. And then Oliver's 141. Very nice there. Dylan Moore. Oh, man. That's a bit painful to see. So they're definitely ones to consider. I mean, yeah, Oliver's so nice and cheap right now as well. I mean, Parrish, huge pod. Clayton Oliver, huge pod. Merritt isn't a huge pod, but he's been very good this season, very consistent. But as I said, I kind of want to go a bit more left of field. I think Parrish could maybe bring it back. And I think that's the other thing I sort of wanted to talk about. Just like in the sense of like, I could go for these top end premiums that everyone's going for, the guys that are averaging 120. But I mean, if they're averaging 120 now, are they going to do that for the rest of the season? There's definitely a reasonable possibility they could push back to 110, where the guys that are currently averaging on 105 or in Parrish's case 95, they could definitely push towards that 110, 115, 120 range and be a lot more valuable. So, yeah, I really did want to go Oliver. I really did want Parrish. I love the look at Dunkley, though. Why do I love Dunkley so much? It's so hard to just not pick Dunkley right now. I mean, what's Dunkley's been doing? Like, I'm pretty sure he's been on a bit of a tear recently, too. Oh, gosh. I mean, look at those games against Adelaide. It's a very different Adelaide matchup, though. I think he'll go big here and big against Hawthorn, which is what we kind of want him for. He's actually been pretty consistent with the lows of 96, but other than that, he's been quite good at getting to around the 120 mark. Is a hard one to consider. I'll be honest, before this, I'd already sort of locked in Flanders. Because as I said, Flanders in this forward line looks really good. But let's just quickly bring in the cash cow first of all. So get Darcy Jones in there. Cool. Then we can jump back to the summary and look at how much money we'll have left over. So 150k with Oliver, 105k with Parrish, and Dunkley could be a 163. Now, Parrish into GWS could be hard. Oliver into Carlton will be hard. Dunkley into Adelaide will be hard. So these will all be hard games, unfortunately. And they are playing at Adelaide Oval, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm actually pretty tempted just to go Dunkley right now. I've changed my mind on the fly. Like, as I mentioned, Dunkley having Hawthorn and Richmond next week, I thought let's get him after his bye. But if I wait till after his bye, he's going to have gone up and he'll be like 650k at minimum, I would think, at that point. And then his fixture's a bit worse after his bye, I'm pretty sure. So if we go back to the season stats, what was his fixture after his bye? So obviously he's got these elite matchups that we want. I think Dogs give up points. West Coast a bit later on. Yeah, I mean, look, the fixture isn't that great, honestly. Honestly, I think it's probably one of the harder fixtures to look at after the bye. Especially for Supercoach scoring. But before the bye, we get the Richmond Hawthorn, which is delightful. It makes it very tempting to get on him right now. Oh yeah, this is what it looks like. So if he goes the 120 basically, or 20, basically a 130 average, goes towards that 130-ish average over the next 3, he's going to end up at 670. Then after his bye is going to be impossible. Then we're just going to have to not get him at all. And as I said, I kind of want a spicy pod. So let's bring in Dunkley. I'm going to be happy with that. I'm going to lock that on in. It's probably not as good for my forward line, but the good news is we can loophole here. Assuming Sexton, once again, isn't named. If he is named into North, I'm not going to be too unhappy with that. Saying that, though, the ball might not come down that defensive end. This is kind of the poor thing for Sexton to begin with. The ball, when he was in the team, never came down to defense. So he never had a chance to actually do anything. But it'd be good if he doesn't play, because then I can loophole Garcia and Jones very nicely. I'm going to back in Darcy for a good one. I'm going to back in Wilson, who's been on a tear. Let's back in Reed here. Yeah, we're pretty happy with these. Now, the midfield's kind of completed, and we end up with Closely and Graham on the bench, which probably isn't ideal, honestly. But as I said, if I technically brought in Oliver or Parrish, I still end up in that position. If I bring in Flanders, though, then I can play a Closely or a Graham, but I can't loophole them. I just have to sort of pick which one I think's going to do better. Against North, I probably would have picked Graham, but probably not the case. Let's just put the emergency on Graham. Oh, saying that, though, we're expecting Libba to be out this week. So I want Libba to play, but if he doesn't, I guess we can cover with Graham. So that's fine. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with everything we discussed today. I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. We'll go through the captaincies. I actually did bring some notes this time to have a bit of a look at them. Now, talking about captaincies, everyone talks about their captaincy average. I just wanted to go over mine because it's another huge reason that I'm so far behind. But honestly, round 1, 117 Zach Butters. Round 2, 138 Tim English. Round 3, 124 Tim English. Round 4, 117 Tim English. Round 5, 72 Jeremy McGovern. Round 6, 127 Zach Butters. Round 7, 102 Bontempelli. And then round 8, Tom Green 5. That brings me to a total of 802 points over 8 rounds. That is 100.25 average. So I have 100 average for my captaincy, and it's very painful knowing that there's so many people that are like 130 to 140 plus. Like if you're 30 points ahead of me, you're 240 points ahead of me. You know, that's a total of 240 extra points. If you're 40 points ahead of me in your captaincies, that's 320. Like, I'm hundreds of points behind some of the top tier players with these captaincies, and it's just sucked. Just really sucked that these have just gone wrong. I have been very puttish on some of these captains, so I can only blame myself. And I'm playing the game in hard mode because I don't have Gorn, so I can't go, oh, Gorn, good matchup, let's just do Gorn. But it is what it is. I put myself in that position. Now, VCs and Cs for the week. I think there is 4 that stand out to me as very, very good options. Option 1, obviously the most obvious VC in the world, Max Gawn, if you own him. Into Carlton, he played them in the preseason, dropped a 189 on them. Obviously, Pianet's been playing a bit more. Tom DeConning did a lot of work in that practice match, and they have been using him a lot more, but I still think Gorn probably goes pretty big here. Number 2, I already spoke about him before. It is Zachy Butters, and he will be my VC. Going into Geelong, probably the weakest midfield in the league when it comes to Supercoach points being restricted. Also, Rosie out of the team. More emphasis falls on Butters to do, I guess, a bit more work. And just, yeah, I mean, Clayton Oliver just dropped a 141 after looking cooked for the last 5 weeks, so I'm feeling pretty confident about Butters going pretty big here. Then the next 2, I think, these are the next 2 for me that are very obvious. Obviously, players, you may own others, but I think obviously you got Bontempelli into Richmond. We just saw, obviously, Sarong drop a 137 on them. I think Bont's a pretty obvious one there. So you can C or VC him because you probably have a Livingston loophole, so you can basically VC anyone before the Pies game. And then Dacos is a very reliable C. So I'd be very happy to see Dacos on the back end of things if anything went wrong. If you did VC Bont, because you're a bit scared of a Pickett tag. If you're not scared of that Pickett tag, you can just C Bont. And then, as I said, I'm very happy with, I think you'd be very good with a Gorn or Butters VC options. Even a Butters C, if you VC Gorn, that's still good. And then the final one, I guess, is just if you have any of the Gold Coast boys going into North, you're probably going to towel them up, so you can definitely look at them. Yeah, I'd feel pretty confident, obviously, putting the C on most of them. But if you want to put the C, go ahead. Sorry, VC, go ahead. And another player I actually want to talk about from North Melbourne, it's actually in my trade outs, because I didn't mention my trade outs, but we traded out, obviously, Marshall, Powell, and Cadman. And Powell got traded out 400k. A lot of people saying he's going to get his midfield rollback. He got 52% CBAs, which is a lot better from what it was at last week, 14%. But Powell ended up putting out a 70, and honestly, if you were a holder, I'd be pretty unhappy with that. Now, the reason I did get rid of Powell, even if there was a chance of midfield, is purely because of the scores he's actually put out. So if we remove this 129 and 95 that he got, because nobody owned him then, everyone obviously brought him in from round 3 onwards. If we look at him in our actual team, what he's done for us, I'm just going to quickly grab the calculator from earlier, and we're just going to add it up really nice and fast. 73. Oh my god, I'm so dumb. Why am I doing it this way? I can look at his total points that he's on right now. Total points, so 681 minus the first 2, which were 224. And then we can divide that by how many games? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 6. Boom, 91 average. That's actually much better than I thought it was. Did I math that right? That's crazy. There's no way that's 91 average. That doesn't make sense. No, that's cooked. That's cooked. I must have done this wrong. Wait, let's go back. Let's go back again. So maybe it was 7 games. I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not 6 games. I must have done it wrong. I think I hit 8. Maybe 6, 8, 1 minus 2, 2, 4 divided by... Yeah, I definitely must have started with an 8. There we go, 76 average. So that's what he's averaged in the team. He came out with a 72, so even if you remove that, it would have been slightly higher, like a 78 or something. So that's how I sort of looked at Powell. It was like, hey, in reality, like, even before the 90, like, this guy's looking at like an 80 to 85. He's not really a keeper. And I think from what we've seen, I really thought he was worse than that. He obviously got this 49 as well. And if that's the chance that he gets moved forward at any time and it just kills him, it just wasn't worth it. But I think holding Powell really hurts here. I don't see him as a top 6 forward. And he's just going to lose this money that he made us. So I think you should be moving on him this week, especially into Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast will run absolutely over them and he will not touch the ball. But yeah, sorry, as I sort of mentioned with my VCs and Cs, I was going to go Butters into... Kind of want to lock in Bont as a safe one. Yeah, I'll probably lock in Bont as the C. Obviously had a good week this week going into Richmond. I feel pretty happy with that. I think Nank's been pretty good at restricting. I mean, obviously Gorn held them up, and I think Darcy and Jackson didn't really have that good a game against Richmond, but yeah, I don't really want to go English. So I feel pretty confident. I think this is the best combo for me. But anyway, that's going to be it from me, guys. I've rambled on enough. I've talked about plenty of things. I hope it helped you guys with a lot of your trades. If not, fair enough. At least you can hopefully watch me try and come back. Try and find this pod territory to come back from. As I mentioned, when I'm talking about pods, I'm not going out and getting these 300k speculative guys. I'm still going to get these top echelon premium guys, or these guys that I believe can be premiums, even if they're M9 or D7 swingmen, to try and just gain a few extra points in the competition rather than copying what everyone else is doing, because that's not going to net me any ground. But till next time, guys, peace, later.